Hello, in today's video I will talk about old people abuse or elderly abuse. This is today's journal. What happened was my mother went to the hospital because she's in her bed flat all day long, and I told her to sit up and everything, but she, like I do right now, but she doesn't want to sit up. So she was throwing up on Friday. She ended up going to the hospital on Friday. Was it this Friday or last week? I don't remember. But either way, she went to the hospital. She's today. The spouse started working again, so I was babysitting the kids in the main part of the house, and I was sleeping. I did hear the first doorbell, the second doorbell, but I wasn't expecting anybody, and nobody told me to, what's the word, that they were expecting anybody. So then the phone begins to ring, but I don't answer the phone anyway. So half an hour later, my mother gets up and opens the door for some slim lady, a physical therapist or something, and she sees me because I'm in the sofa with I'm lying down in the sofa with my eyes closed, right? And then she stayed a few minutes, and then she left. But when she was leaving, she was having a hard time getting out of my mother's room because my mother's walker was blocking the way. The door to my mother's room doesn't open all the way because the bed, the big bed, is blocking the door, and the closet has a bunch of shoes hanging on it. One of those equipment like that, and so it's hanging, and so she couldn't really get out of there, and she was carrying things. So she said, "You need a bigger hallway." But I've already spoken to the spouse. I told her, put my mother in the main room with the bathroom so that she'll make it to the bathroom. But the spouse hasn't done that. So everything goes fine. Then I eat about 5 tortillas for breakfast. Then I eat, my son eats cereal, and then I eat a little bit of cereal. And then there was one last tortilla, which I could have eaten it, but I didn't eat it. I took it to my children in their room, with the one with the bathroom, right? The big master bedroom. And I said, which one of you will take this food, this tortilla with meat, ground beef, to grandma? And the daughter moved quickly and she took it to grandma. I mentioned that because then I fell asleep again on the sofa. Hours go by, and sometime later in the afternoon, the doorbell begins to, ring again, and then the phone, and then the knocking, and then I didn't get up again because I'm not expecting anybody. But this time is a plump lady. She's a nurse. And the grandmother, my mother, was the one that opened the door for her. Because I'm not expecting anybody, so. But this time I just put my pillow over myself and I pretended to be sleeping. And 15 minutes later, the spouse gets home. And the spouse, as soon as the spouse gets here, she says, "Why didn't you get up and go to sleep in your in the room?" I think she said. So I said yes. So, because I don't argue with the spouse, whatever she says, most of the time I do it. So I got up and I came back to my room, and then on the way she was saying, "No, I didn't mean this room. I meant the bedroom." But I don't go lie down in my kids' beds anyway, or the spouse's bed. I have my bed here. This is where I come sleep. So then Someone told me, it must have been the spouse, because my mother is not talking to me yet. And so what happened was, they told me that my mother apparently filled out some report with the nurse about old people abuse or negligence, or the nurse filled it out, or either way. So I've already reported. Apparently, I am a, what is that? Is that a criminal for doing stuff like that? Not opening the door? Again, I'm not expecting anybody. My mother and I are not talking because she told me not to talk to her since probably Saturday or Sunday, or whenever she got home. Sunday. What day is this? Do you know?
Monday.
Alright, I don't know what day this is, but let me look. Yeah, Monday. So what happened next was, my mother reports to the old lady that she didn't eat breakfast, or she didn't eat food all day. Now, I have just proven that my mother, well, I just stated that my mother got up twice to open the doorbell. So I don't see anything physically wrong with my mother. She can easily go make herself breakfast or cereal, or ask the kids for food, or she could start talking to me, but she told me not to talk to her, so I'm not talking to her. I'm not even going into her room, and when she comes in, I can hear her like coming out of the bedroom. I usually come into my room here, or I go outside, or I even go to the garage and I stay there until she's done with things. But today again, I was babysitting my kids, so I didn't leave. And my mother saw me sleeping on the sofa, and when she opened the door and everything. So that's what's going on. Again, I've already reported to the spouse and other relatives that this mother, she falls down about once a year, maybe twice a year. But the reason she falls down is because she doesn't want to listen to what I tell her. I tell her, look, you can't open the door till you get to your room. You got to squeeze in sideways. So move the bed, get a smaller bed, remove the door, but they don't want to do that. Or just rotate the bed, somehow. But they don't want to do that because then there's no room for the TV. Or switch rooms. Go sleep in the other room with the bathroom in it. And then I told the spouse, look at this rackety, it's a chair for taking a shower, and it's the same chair I think for the toilet. But it's all raggedy. Someone needs to tighten the screws. So I told the spouse, I'll do it if you help me. But or you can call somebody, because she always ends up, the spouse doesn't believe I have any skills to use a screwdriver or a wrench. So I say, all right, call up your carpenter and have him fix it. Call up somebody. Buy a new one, whatever you want to do. Because anything I suggest, like I've suggested to put it on the toilet and actually let Grandma use it. But Grandma doesn't want to use it. She says she doesn't like it. She doesn't like it in the bathroom, in the shower either. So I told her, come here, use my shower. This way you don't have to pick up your leg. But she doesn't want to come all the way over here. She's got a couple of stairs to get all the way to this shower. So she just uses that shower in the main part of the house, which has a bathtub. But she doesn't want to stick the chair in there because she doesn't want to use it. So what's happening to what I believe is my mother is acting like a baby or like a child. And some of you out there will probably say I'm acting like a child because your mother says don't talk to her, you don't talk to her. But again, some of you that are professionals will say, oh, you're acting in a passive aggressive manner, Daniel. You're being aggressive, making your mother get up to go open the door. Well, look, there's this other word called tough love. And tough love means, like when I was in the in the hospital, right? The hospital jail for mentally insane people that these two women put me in there. What happens is my roommate, just before lunch, the 2-3 guards came in and they said to him, if you don't take a shower today after lunch, then we will lock you out of your room. Now, if the guy's locked out, I guess I'll be locked out of that room too, you know. And I like being in my room sometimes because it was more quiet than with the 2 TVs on all day long over there. So the next thing that happened was the guy took a shower after lunch, you know. That's called tough love. And so my mother, the therapist, comes and tells her, do some exercises. But if my mother doesn't want to get up out of bed, all right, do them in the bed, all right. But I didn't go in there to look to see if my mother got up out of bed to do the exercises after she opened the door for the morning girl, the slim one, the skinny one. So the point is, the mother, the only time she got up today was to open the door for those two, the nurse and the therapist. And also, she may have gotten up to go to the bathroom, of course, but that's it. Otherwise, she's flat in bed. And for dinner, I told the spouse, make grandma come out here and eat with us. If she doesn't want to see me, fine, I'll go to my room. But no, what does the spouse do? She takes a plate of food to the mother, who doesn't stop doing what? She doesn't stop lying flat on the bed, you know, or laying flat with whatever it is, not even sitting up. All right, then another topic, the spouse says that obviously, since I watch many videos about violence, then I am insane, because someone mentioned that people that watch a lot of violence videos are insane. And so I asked her that if you watch the news, then you're insane. The argument cannot, you see, with me, you cannot win many arguments, because I can usually find, I use Tony Robbins techniques. Like if you ever use the word always and never, then there's bound to be one situation where that does not apply. If you're taking a test at school and it says all children, well, there's going to be one situation where that does not apply. So you could usually, if the answers are A, B, C, D, and D has all or always or never, well, D is, you can disqualify that answer most of the time. You could win if you do something like all my school teachers went to college. Now that one you could possibly win. So there are exceptions. All dogs wag their tail. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a dog that doesn't have a tail, but if he did, he would wag his tail. So that's what I'm talking about. So the documentary which I wanted the spouse to watch, I don't know if no, the computer was too slow, so I didn't get to show it to her. Her computer. That documentary was about life in India for women, and it was about baby girls, like doing ultrasounds for a pregnant mother, and if the baby is a girl, they try to abort the child because they only want boys or males to be born. And so that is strange. And so it was about an orphanage in India. So that's about violence. And then there was another documentary about life in India, about an Indian girl in England that went to visit India, and how she spoke to the same situation. there was a doctor woman married, and they told her to abort the children because they were both twin girls. Now this is a doctor woman, and what's happening over there is that if you're from the upper class and you're a woman, then you're not going to have 10 kids like the lower class, lower income. And so most likely that doctor, if she has those two girls, she was not going to have any more children. And she's a doctor, and her husband and the father of the husband, all of the men in that family, even the women sometimes, they say it's better for you to do this, to abort the girls. So that's affecting, it's a cultural idea that's affecting lower income and high income people. And the two tragedies in that video, besides these, right, were about one girl that went out with her, I imagine, a boyfriend, and she was coming out of the movie theater at 9 o'clock. So when she came out, the other men ripped her clothes right there, and somebody recorded on a camera, just because she was out at 9 o'clock at night. And she had a bruises on her face too, but apparently nothing else happened to her. All right, she's alive. Whereas previously there had been another attack on a boy and girl, like what do they call them, lovebirds, or a couple, right? A boy and a girl, and they came out of somewhere. They went to they came out of a movie theater, and they couldn't find a ride home to their neighborhood. The rickshaws or something wouldn't give them, so they took a bus, and 5 men on the bus raped that girl, and they hurt the man also, just beating him up, I guess. But then they threw him off the bus, and then they tried to run him over, but somehow failed. I don't know how you could fail after beating these people, because the girl eventually died at the hospital, and the boyfriend, nobody talks about him. The only error that these two young people made was that they went out, and they were outside after dark. And so the lawyer of the five, I'll call them criminals, which are captured, one of them committed suicide, by the way. So the lawyer of these criminals, he says that young man should not have put that girl in that situation. And if she's a respectable young lady, she should not have put herself in that situation of going out at night. And so that was a culture shock for the girl from England of Indian descent that went to do this BBC documentary. Okay, so that's one of the crimes, which is rape on a bus or attacking women on the street at that hour. During the day, all that the men apparently do is bump into young girls, to bump into their breasts. But I know that they do that over here at the middle school also, where they actually reach and grab them, because I was a substitute there. That's why the girls carry their book bags in the front at the middle school, right here in Florida. Okay. The next thing was a 14-year-old girl that didn't talk to this boy that was her classmate, so he threw acid on her face, and that was in the documentary of India. So I watched these things, right, because the spouse is complaining about, or just mentioning, that the water bill will be turned off when, this tomorrow, day after tomorrow, because she doesn't have any money to pay it, and that the light bill, she cannot get another extension because she just had an extension last month. But again, I live in a house where when I mention things like I was already digging a well right here for the water, at least to dig a well, and she stopped me from doing that, the spouse. I was mentioning how the air conditioner could be fixed, because the vents, the part that we don't see, which is the conduct, the duct above the ceiling. The guy from the electric company mentioned how it was ripped up and it was no good and we needed a replacement. So I said, well, let's just put one. Can you see the ceiling here? Well, let's just put one up there in the ceiling, because now I've seen that they don't have to be huge ones. They could be small ones, and you could just save on putting in a new one, just like the one from the dryer, something similar like that. The vent from the dryer. But the spouse says, no, you're insane. So I said, all right, any suggestions I make? She says no. Well, anyway, apparently I'm just thinking ahead now, because I usually think ahead, and that probably means that there's no money for the internet. So I don't know how many more videos I'll be making. All right. The good news is she started working. My mother pays the bills here, but I think she's going to end up in a senior citizen home, because she doesn't really like we're playing Jenga and we're playing dominoes, just lining them up and playing with a finger and flipping them and they all fall down. And that's too much noise for my mother. All right, she doesn't like. She really wants to be in complete silence, and that's been going on since I was 4 years old. When she stayed with the Mexicans, because she got thrown in jail, my mother. So when she got out, she was not allowed to be here because I was the victim. So she ended up living with my Mexican neighbors. And then another time that she came, she wanted to go stay back there with the Mexican neighbors, but they told her no this time, because, well, the man told me what happened. He said, your mother doesn't like it that the children make too much noise. So that's true. You know, children make noise. All right, so that's what's been going on. Now what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to post this video. Enjoy your life. Be better than I am. Take care of yourself.